Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at one of my all-time favourite super strats, which is the Maverick F1 Matrix. Now a lot of you won't be familiar with Maverick as a guitar company, but they started in 2000 and they wanted to market towards people who wanted something a little bit different than the regular super strat. However, they only lasted a couple of years. It seems that they'd lost the passion for what they were doing and didn't want to really continue until that passion came back, so they left a placeholder on the website at the time saying, "We will be back, watch this space, we're going to do something, but we're going to do it when we feel that we're ready." And while it's not a great business plan, I can totally understand why somebody would do that, especially in a small company. Maverick were based in York, and they, I think, ceased to be a company in about 2007, although they were actually dissolved before then. At the time, the guitars were received really well because they were comfortable and they were affordable-ish. They were about £500 thereabouts. I actually discovered them in a guitar magazine that had a budget special, which was the same budget special that introduced me to Switch guitars. If anyone can tell me what magazine that was, it was around 2001, 2002. I'd really like to get a hold of a copy of it again. But back to the model in question. Obviously the first thing you'll notice about this is it's got a split fretboard, switching between maple and rosewood. Admittedly, this is what drew me to the guitar in the first place, and when I saw it I knew I had to have it, because I'd been lusting after a Maverick since I saw one in that magazine all those years prior. This was in around 2014 and I paid £320 for it, which was more than I'd usually spend on a guitar at the time, but it was undeniably beautiful, and it still had the original whammy bar. So let's take a brief look at the specs. Obviously you've got a mixed fretboard, and interestingly it's lacquered maple with unfinished rosewood. You've got a super slim neck, which is very similar to the Ibanez Wizard, a really wide skunk stripe, a reverse headstock, a licensed Floyd Rose, 2 humbuckers, sideways mounted tone and volume, 3-way toggle switch, bolt neck construction, and a recessed jack socket. Now I'll admit it's the knobs that actually drew me to these in the first place because they were different, and even back then, before I'd even started playing guitar, I knew that I liked things that were just a bit different. Add on to this the contours and you've got something that really does stand out even in black. The other details I really like are the rubber grip rings that you've got on the whammy bar and the toggle switch, although unfortunately these are showing their age and the rubber is starting to crack. I'm very lucky that these haven't come off yet, but I'm assuming at some point they will. I'm not too sure what the body's made of, but it feels quite dense, so my guess is that it's one of the heavier hardwoods. The neck started out as a satin maple, although it's become very glossy with use because I've used this a lot. Now it's called the Matrix because of the fretboard, but it's actually based on the F1 model, the F1 being 2 humbuckers with a Floyd Rose. They also made a hardtail version called the F2, a pointier shape called the X1, as well as a couple of other models that I don't own, such as the F3, which is a 3 pickup version, the Species, and they also had a range of basses as well. Now the F2 has the benefit of it being a hardtail, so it's a bit more stable than a Floyd Rose, and with the textured finish it's also a lot easier to see on camera than the F1. Unfortunately it's only got a standard rosewood fretboard, there's no giant skunk stripe, and the toggle switch looks like a butt plug. It's much lighter than the F1, probably because of the smaller bridge, and these pickups are so brutal they should probably be in prison. One thing that I do really like about the F2 is that without there being a locking nut, it's actually got a really nice end to the fretboard, which means beyond the nut they've actually lacquered the rosewood, and it's actually quite a premium look. It's a little detail that they didn't have to do. The X1 hasn't quite been finished yet, I'm still working on it, but I did paint it this colour because I decided that a stupidly metal looking guitar should be fluorescent pink, and it also had a few bad things, so I ended up chamfering some of the edges a little bit just to hide them. Check out the size of the slugs on those pole pieces. Aside from the body shape, it's pretty similar to the F1. There's one detail that I really like and kind of dislike about the Maverick F series, and that is the fact that the horns are so slim, they need to actually anchor the strap buttons within the horn, which means they're really thinking about things. It's not just for looks, it actually spreads the weight through the horn so that all of the weight of the guitar isn't being pulled directly onto quite a narrow tip. Now the F2 actually has quite an interesting finish on it, which appears to be pretty much indestructible. I'm not sure what it is, I'm not sure what it's called. I seem to recall that at the time it might have been called lava or magma finish, but that might just be me misremembering things. But it's really interesting because it constantly looks like it's wet.
Though it isn't.
So it's effectively got gloss blobs on black satin. An interesting choice, and I kind of dig it. I think it looks cool. One thing on the F2 that I'm not too keen on is the size of the dots, which are the same on the X1. I think they're a little bit too small. I would rather have them a bit more of a normal size. They make a bit more sense on the Matrix because they're off to one side, but when they're in the middle, small dots just look a little bit peculiar. My dislikes on the Matrix are basically the colour of the pickups. They sound amazing, so I'm not going to change them, but I don't think the zebra quite goes, although it kind of goes with the theme of the neck, it doesn't go with the colours. But that's just me being picky. But I've been talking for ages, why don't we see what they sound like? As you can hear, Maverick's pickups sound great clean, but the character really comes through when you drive that sound. As a result, I'd say if you spot one, get it. If you're into metal or shredding or rock or jazz or blues or just having really nice feeling guitars, then get a Maverick. They're not going to be around forever. Now, as I mentioned, I paid £320 for this just over 10 years ago, and that still seems to be around the sweet spot of what they're priced at. Some of the rarer ones might go for a little bit more, but you do find them a lot cheaper. For example, the F2 was only £70, which is an amazing price when you consider it's got a really rare finish, and the owner had installed Planet Waves trim lock tuners, which are fantastic, but super expensive. If it wasn't for this guitar, I'd never have tried them, but they're brilliant. They save you so much time, and they're so stable too. The X1 cost me about £35 on Facebook Marketplace locally. It was obviously owned by a teenager who didn't really know what the value of the guitar was and treated it like crap, hence the respray. Otherwise, I wouldn't do a respray on one of these at all if it was in pristine condition. On eBay, you do see these from about £150 generally. I would say even £400 is worth it for these guitars. They are fantastic. They are built in Korea. They were built, I think, around the same time in Korea as the RG series from Ibanez, but they feel more like the Prestige series. If you see one of these for sale locally, don't hesitate because you will kick yourself. These for me get a 10 out of 10, and there's no way you can go from there. So there we have it. My album of the week this week is Demos by Matt Skiba. I don't know how he did it, but it seems that he just approached it in a really basic way, and these are literally just demos that he created himself. So they've got that really lo-fi, melancholy sort of vibe. So if that's what you're into, take a listen. As usual, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.